Well, day 28 of 30X is here. It's so good to be in the studio with you again today. Today, we're going to continue on the topic of synergy and continue on that multiplying topic and keep looking at how it is that ultimately we want the business to be so that we can put it into as many locations around the world as possible. You know, building a business from scratch is a phenomenal thing. You get all those basic systems in place. You build the sales, you build the marketing, you build the product and service, even knowing what it is you're selling and how well you're selling it. You build the leverage, the systems, and the team, and all of these different aspects behind it. Ultimately, though, what's the purpose in doing all of this? Well, today I want to start thinking about how you actually model the business. What is the business model? What model are you using that gets leverage and scale and then take advantage of the marketability and opportunity? Now, to do that, I want to look at two things. First of all, I want to start thinking about businesses that didn't remodel or didn't change or didn't grow. And I'm sure you have an example of this locally. I'm sure you got tons of examples of companies that you can think of that they didn't change with the times and therefore they're just not even there anymore. You know, Kodak, prime example, massive company, didn't change with the times, gone. BlackBerry, massive company, didn't change with the times, gone. IBM almost did it to themselves way back when. Apple almost did it to themselves not that long ago. Now you start thinking about businesses that go through and understand that they have to continually renew what they're doing, be it the product, be it the service, be it the way of distribution, be it the marketing, be it the methodology of selling. Let's look at some examples of this. I mentioned yesterday Ray Kroc and McDonald's. How many different ways has McDonald's changed, added, updated, upgraded? You go from McDonald's not having breakfast, then they added breakfast, and all of a sudden it's massive. Never sold breakfast all day, now it's all day. The Mac Cafe with coffee and all of this different aspect to it. Salads, breakfast, apples, fruit. You know, McDonald's has evolved so much and changed so much over the years to keep up with the market and where the market is. The way they've restructured their restaurants to the point where now they even have a computer system that you can order on, that sort of thing. Delivery in many parts of the world. And this is where you need to understand that renewal in business is something that every business must consistently look at. Now, if we take a look at, say, even let's look at the car business, automobiles. They know they have to keep moving with technology. They know that if they don't every 2, 3, 5 years update, upgrade their product, then the product is just gone. It's beaten by a competitor. The clothing business knows they have to keep updating and upgrading their product. Other businesses where it might not be the product that needs to be upgraded and updated, it might be the methodology of distribution, it might be the way of getting it to the customer type thing. You know, you look at the water business. The water business started out as a city business. You know, every government around the world had the water and they charged you for water for using it to water your garden and use it in your house and shower and everything. They still do that. But now the water business has gone into bottling, and it's not just having it in a bottle, it's having it in a more fancy bottle, a different shape bottle, a different way bottle, all the different things. Every business consistently evolves, and you need to think about your business from that fact as well. The water business didn't really change. It's still water. It's just put through a different process and packaged in a different way, so now they can charge a whole bunch more for it than they used to. Every business evolves. And I remember a great quote from Bill Gates many years ago where he said, there's probably a kid in a garage trying to put Microsoft out of business. And he was right, but it was kids in a dorm room, Larry and Sergey at Google. And, if Microsoft didn't update and upgrade, they would have been put out possibly by Google. Every business in the world needs to consistently be thinking about renewal. And if they don't, they go the way of Blockbuster and they just disappear. I mean, it's amazing that when you read the story about how Blockbuster had the chance to, Netflix is such a great business model. It's a renewable model. It's a subscription-based model and so on that we get it. They're brilliant. Every time, though, that businesses don't innovate and don't keep up with that, we get in trouble. So let's think about innovation just for a moment. Now, there's disruption, which you've heard a lot about in the last few years because of things like Uber and companies like Airbnb that are disrupting entire marketplaces. Disruption is the goal, is where you have the goal to put everyone else out of business. Innovation is where you're starting to think of, how do I sell this for less and make more profit? See, let me state that again. How do I sell this for less and yet make more profit? See, Apple sells music for less. You remember when you had to go and buy a whole album or a whole CD? Now you can just buy the one song that you actually like. Apple sells music for less, but makes more profit than a record store used to, type thing. You start thinking of innovation and you start looking at many different businesses. Who is a great innovator? Cirque du Soleil. Living here in Vegas, I see them all the time, but the circus business was going out of business. And Cirque du Soleil said, hang on, we don't need to change the circus that much, but we do need to change our target audience. We don't want to be selling to kids, we want to be selling to adults. See, what do adults want to see? Yeah, adults love the shows at the circus, the flying trapeze act, the strong man, the dance, all those great things that Cirque du Soleil has. But Cirque du Soleil went from a $5 ticket for a kid going to a circus in the grassed area or outside of town to now an adult paying $100, $200 a ticket to go to a beautiful venue and not buy popcorn, buy champagne. And this is the difference in innovation. See, sometimes it's innovating the product. Sometimes it's innovating the methodology of distribution like Zappos did with shoes. Sometimes it's simply just changing the target audience and going to a target audience that pays more. I mean, when you sit down and think about it, the circus is as great an entertainment as a rock concert, and yet people are paying $200 for a ticket to a concert and $5 to go to the circus. I mean, you got to be real clear on what it is you're trying to do if you're going to innovate in business. Innovation is not really disruption. Innovating is finding a better way of selling what you currently sell. Disruption is usually about finding a way that totally removes an old way of doing business and brings in an entirely new way of doing business. And you've heard many stories on Uber and Airbnb and how they're disrupting markets totally. But let's go back to the first real disruption that most of us saw in our lifetime. And, some of you are probably still too young for this, but the fax machine, the cell phone, these were total disruptors of their day that have gone through. And technology is at the forefront of a lot of disruption. So as business people, we need to really be thinking about disruption in more terms of, okay, where am I using technology in my business? Where can I use technology in my business? And ultimately, I think that is a massive part of the success of companies today, where they're looking to technology. I mean, big cloud computing is a massive part. Big data is a massive part of disruption. Companies today who don't understand that stuff will go out of business in the near future. The big companies anyway. Now, do we as small to medium-sized companies need to understand this stuff? Yeah, we do. We need to understand it. Do we need to be masters of it yet? Probably not yet. But when your business gets bigger, when you're getting to tens or hundreds of millions a year, you got to start really thinking about this stuff, okay? Really thinking about disruption is a very important aspect. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it here today. I'm more wanting to focus on the innovation side of your business, and then we're going to look at the business model side of it. So, innovating your industry. What is the last innovation your industry made? Where did that innovation come from? Who came up with it? Where did it happen? How did it happen? Here's how I'm going to teach you to come up with great innovations for your industry. Firstly, stop looking at your industry. You want great innovations? You've usually got to look at an industry outside of yours. You've usually got to look at some other profession, some other business. Start thinking about the way they do things and say, how do we do stuff that's on a similar method? How do we innovate in a similar way? How can we actually turn our business into something that does that stuff? Second methodology I like for innovation is go international. Take a look at international aspects of your business. Even going to an expo or a convention for your industry in another part of the world, you'll generally find they're doing things different. There's generally 2 or 3 ideas you can use or you can take that actually helps you in your industry where you're at. Too often we get so stuck in going to conventions with just people in our local area, and we go to our annual industry convention, we see the same people, the same companies, the exact same strategies, the exact same marketing, the exact same sales strategies being used. And yeah, that's how businesses end up going out of business. That's how, I'm sure the taxi business kept going to taxi conventions and didn't go to any conventions on technology, and Uber comes along and beats them up. These are some of the things that we need to be thinking about. Get outside of your industry, get outside of your country, and go start looking for opportunities out there in the marketplace. Innovation is also best when it comes from staff and customers. A lot of the times your customers will come up with an idea. A complaint from a customer is basically them giving you an idea. When they're complaining about something, they're trying to say to you, hey, fix this for me, do this, fix that. If you can come up with a better way of doing it, that to me would be amazing. Oftentimes our staff come up with innovations, and we got to be willing to listen to them. Our team has some great ideas because they're on the front line. I know some of the best programs at Action Coach literally evolved because coaches changed the way we did things. Our 90-day planning process, we used to do it individually with every single client. One of our coaches brought all of his clients together one week and one quarter and put them all in a room and trained them all to do it together. The ideas that they gave each other, the ideas that came from the room, all of a sudden his clients are performing better than everyone else. We're like, what are you doing different to everybody else? He said, well, I'm bringing them together once a quarter. Great. Invent that program right through the whole business. Our Profit Club, our book clubs. Book clubs started down in Mexico where one of our coaches said, I'm just going to get my clients together every 2 weeks and read some books and learn from it and apply it. And these were very tiny businesses that couldn't afford big coaching, but they could afford starting with a book club, $100 a month type thing. And boom, all of a sudden they started making more money. We roll it out worldwide. Sometimes the best innovation doesn't come from your corporate head office. Sometimes the best innovation comes from within your team. Other times you got to actually plan innovation. I remember now some of you won't be old enough to remember the Motorola flip phone, but when Motorola had the Razr, it was the best phone in the world. It was kind of like the iPhone is today or any of those sorts of things. And hey presto, Motorola sent a whole bunch of people outside of their office to go to a whole new place. 60 odd people they sent to one site and come up with the world's best phone. Innovate, innovate, innovate. They charged them with the role. All you have to do is innovate. Sometimes in a business, our job is to actually come up with, just have someone that innovates what we're doing to create a better way, a newer way, a better way to get it to the customers, a faster way to get it to the customers, a cheaper way to get it to the customers. When you start thinking of the customer and how you can make their experience better, then innovation usually is a phenomenal thing. All you got to do is go back to a very simple story of McDonald's. And if you ever go read the story of the fillet of fish, it came about because one McDonald's franchisee couldn't sell burgers on a Friday. They couldn't sell meat on a Friday. It was just not part of the area they lived in. So they started selling a fish burger on a Friday, and hey presto, McDonald's now has a fish burger all around the world. Innovation comes from the front line. It comes from the customers, but it also comes from planning your innovation and saying we have to innovate if we had to innovate. The old theory of if it ain't broke, don't break it, don't fix it, it doesn't work in business anymore. The theory today is real simple. You got to innovate. You got to keep looking for ways. If it isn't broken, break it. Because someone's going to come along somewhere, a competitor, a young competitor, a startup is going to come along and break it and do it for you. Okay? Keep innovating and keep learning. Now, 2 other areas I want to focus in on today. Next one is that of the business model that you're using. So I want to look at some of the core business models that have the greatest leverage and greatest scale. Let's start with some of the easy ones, some of the things that stories that I've told you that you get from it. I mentioned one already today, the subscription model. What businesses use the subscription model? Gymnasiums use the subscription model. Netflix uses a subscription model. Even Apple now has a subscription, or Microsoft or Norton's. All of these businesses that use a subscription, the software as a service, they use subscription model business so that you buy once and you keep paying every single week or every single month for the rest of time until you say no, until you stop, until you cancel the order. That subscription-based business, and again, it doesn't have to be all of your business is subscription-based. It can just be a percentage of your business where you have a segment that is subscription-based, where they pay on a regular basis for a particular product, a thing, okay? That then leads to the rental type business. So rental is another form, I guess, an expanded form of the subscription business. So you think of the rental business, yeah, you can rent cars, you can rent TVs, you can rent a house. But what other forms of rental is there? What about billboards? You're renting a billboard. What about the bank? You rent money from the bank when you go and you borrow money. You're borrowing it and paying it back in installments. You're renting the money, okay? See, the rental business is, again, another major segment of the business. You may look at a product that you sell and you might think, hey, instead of just selling this, why don't we rent this product? You know, I got a good friend of mine, and their business is called Belly Bliss, and it's a great little business just up the street from my office here. And they're in the business of taking care of pregnant women, obviously. And one of the products they sell, the breast pump, instead of selling it, they now rent it. And they're making a whole lot more money renting it than they would have if they'd sold it. So start thinking about what are their products that you could rent, or what are their equipment that you could rent within your business rather than selling. And hey presto, you buy it once and sell it forever and ever, amen. The rental business is a great business model that many businesses can take advantage of. You don't have to make your whole business that. You might, but it's a model that was worth considering within the business that you're in. Next one, the distribution business. I love the distribution business. Now, there's both online and offline distribution. You look online, you look at eBay, you look at Amazon. These are in the distribution business. Amazon doesn't go and make a whole bunch of things. They sell a whole bunch of things that other people have already made. Offline distribution, trucking companies, warehousing companies. You start thinking of UPS. I mean, when you look at FedEx, UPS, the Postal Service, all of these companies that have made an absolute fortune out of the internet because they didn't rush to the gold mine and dig for gold. They rushed to the gold mine and said, what does everybody going to the gold mine need? Well, they need delivery. Oh, who else has made a fortune out of the internet? Packaging companies. How many cardboard boxes turn up at your house each week nowadays compared to 20 years ago type thing? It's an entirely different thing. But staying with the distribution model, the distribution business is a phenomenally leveraged, a phenomenally scalable business. If you want more product, you go to the person who makes it and you say, I need more product. If you sell more, you need more. It's not a complex thing. I love the distribution-based business, and I think it's a phenomenal business. That then leads me to the commodity-based business. You think of commodity-based business. In fact, look at some of the biggest companies in the world today. The Nestle's, the Mars, the Procters & Gamble's. These are some of the biggest businesses in the world. And what do they sell? Commodities. They sell toilet paper. They sell paper towels. They sell chocolate bars. They sell, things that are just pure commodities that are sold in millions upon millions of sites around the world. That commodity-based business, the Coca-Colas, the shavers, these are things that people buy and use and buy and use and buy again and buy again and buy again. See, you can look at disrupting the commodity-based business. Look at how the shaving business has been totally disrupted by a couple of guys that sat down and said, I cannot believe I'm paying this much for a razor blade. That's insane. So they totally disrupted the business. Start thinking about those commodities, the face creams, the this, the that, all of that stuff is just such a phenomenal business. And there's just, literally the biggest businesses in the world trade in those products. When you think of water business, how much did Coca-Cola pay for Smart Water, Vitamin Water when they bought it? Billions. Crazy, crazy stuff when we sit down and start thinking about these business models and are we in that? Licensing, one of my absolute all-time favorites. I have a bunch of companies that are licensed businesses. I think licensing, and again, Disney is the absolute world genius at this one, but when you look at a licensed business, there are so many different ways to have a licensed product or a licensed service that people can use and will pay a royalty for or pay a percentage of what they make based on the license. And so you start sitting down and thinking about how many different ways does Disney license their products around the world. Just such genius in the ways they do it that it blows my mind. When you sit down and start thinking about licensing, my buddy that I mentioned yesterday with the doors and windows licensed people to be their sales agents around the world. There's so many opportunities to create a business model that is licensed across the world on something that you're doing real well, that I think that too few business people really look at licensing and take it seriously. Um, you know, if you even go down to the very basics of licensing, even TV shows and stuff, and TV shows probably more fall into the franchise category. So if we look at franchising, licensing and franchising is slightly different. Licensing is where they probably won't use your name. They're probably buying from you at wholesale more than paying you a royalty for what they're buying. Franchising, on the other hand, is where they're using your name, following your system, and paying you a royalty along that, and they're probably paying an upfront fee as well for it. Licensing may have an upfront fee, may not, may have a royalty, may just have an ongoing distribution cost, and so on. I love franchising. If you look at franchising, for many, many years, I've been in that industry. Everything from, pretty much was one of the first people into white-collar franchising with Action Coach and with other franchises that are in the service-based businesses. But then you go and see, hotels are franchises, car dealerships are franchises, food, restaurants, all franchises, so many of them around the world. There's somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 different franchise models here in the U.S. alone. I know with Action Coach, we've been in the top 100 forever and a day and in the top 50 globally for a long time as well. But I do love franchising, wrote a book on it, and I think that it's a great business model that should be looked at if you're contemplating that. Network marketing, multi-level marketing, party plan, another great distribution model business. I look at the network marketing businesses around the world, and there's everything from, you got Primerica doing mortgages through network marketing. You go all the way to Amway back in the day that's now in China doing billions a year. To the vitamin companies and the skincare companies that use it is one of the best distribution businesses that there can possibly be. Jewelry businesses using it. You name it, there's companies using that model because it is a phenomenal model. When you see companies go from zero to billions in a few years using that model, you know it's a great model. And I know some people got a bit of a hang up around it. That's crazy. It is a brilliant business model that should be looked at more and more often by business owners. The royalty business model, and again, one of my favorites, of course, I write a book once, collect the royalty on it. I have a buddy of mine, famous musician back in the 90s, still lives off of the royalty from all of the music that he wrote and performed back in the 90s. Doesn't have to do anything ever again. The royalty business, the phone business is royalty, insurance business is royalty. When you take a look at financial planning and financial services businesses, all these things that come to it. The platform model, if you look at Microsoft, that's what Bill Gates was always about, being the platform that everybody uses and everybody will stay using type thing. Eventbrite comes in, creates the platform that everybody uses type thing. And these are some of the aspects behind the success of Google, created the platform where everybody searches type stuff. So, business modeling. Now, there's a bunch more business models, but I wanted to give you the core ones that I wanted you really thinking about, the ones that have great leverage and great scalability in them. Why? Well, I want you thinking globally. Now, I know that I have a distinct advantage over most. I grew up in Australia. And why is that an advantage? Because Australia is a country of 20-odd million people. When I was a kid, it was less than 20 million people. It's a country with high cost of living because of high wages, high taxes, massive cost of distribution. And people say, well, hang on, how's all that an advantage? Well, it's an advantage in this manner. If you can learn to be successful in that marketplace, you can pretty much do it anywhere. But the thing is, to build a multi-billion-dollar business from Australia, you really got to go global. It just is that way. And I look at the entrepreneurs I meet around the world, entrepreneurs in India and England, here in the US, in Canada, in Mexico, in Australia, in New Zealand, and Indonesia, and Vietnam, and I see some amazing entrepreneurs, and I wonder, why aren't you going global? Why are you not thinking internationally? Oh, no, we do go global, Brad. We got this website. People can buy from us all over the world. Really? How many languages is your website in? How many currencies can I buy from you? And what countries can you ship to me in? And all these, you just start thinking globally on a real perspective, and it's totally different to where most people are thinking. I want you to think globally for multiple reasons. Firstly, the market outside of your country is bigger than the market inside of your country. If you're here with me in the United States, yes, absolutely. End of the Second World War, we had the majority of the world's GDP right here in one country, almost 50% of GDP in the United States. Gross domestic product, total money in the world. Nowadays, we're down to 30-odd%. China's growing. India's growing. They say India is going to outstrip China by about 2030 in population base, because China is an aged population. India is a young population that's growing. I start looking at some of the opportunities in some of these markets where there's 1 billion customers in one country, and you start to think, no wonder Australia, 20-odd million people, not even 1%, it's about 1% of the world's GDP, 1 point something percent of the world's GDP is Australia these days. But I'm not trying to make any country feel bad. What I'm trying to say is you're a citizen of the world now. You're not a citizen of one country anymore. You're not just one country where you have to do business. You can do business everywhere in the world. Now, here's the thing. If you don't start thinking globally, guess what? Someone who is thinking globally will come into your marketplace and steal a lot of your customers. You have to do business on a global basis now. You have to compete globally. You have to think of competing globally. I sit here in Las Vegas and I go online, and maybe I'm on Instagram or something, and an ad pops up for something, and I go, yeah, I'd like to buy that, and I buy it. Little do I know it's being shipped to me from China or from India or Vietnam, or it's coming from Chile or somewhere around the world. The point behind it today is we as business people need to be thinking globally in our products, in our services, in where we're selling, how we're selling. 3 reasons why. Number 1, as I mentioned, size of market. Number 2 is economy shift. See, if your country's economy is down and you're just doing business in your country, then you're going to struggle. If, however, you are doing business worldwide, and let's just go back to like 2008 to 2010. I know my friends in Ireland, in Portugal, in Greece. If I only had a business in Portugal in 2010, business is gone. It's just, most of them just disappeared. Whereas because I had my business all over the world, China at the time was booming. Canada was still good because Canada had all the oil. Australia was still good selling the coal into China. So you got to start thinking, okay, where is my business globally, and do I have it in enough places that when the economy shifts, I'm still doing good in some market or some place around the world? Third reason you got to act global. I touched on it, but let's go into it in a bit more detail. Other people are. And if you don't start thinking bigger and start thinking globally, someone will come to your marketplace, step in there and take over your market. That's just what's going to happen. Innovation is happening on an international level. Disruption is happening on an international level. There's very few industries that are safe anymore from disruption and innovation within the marketplace. Your business and my business are all having to change. We're all having to adapt. We're all having to do this. See, 20 years ago, I didn't have to sell information. I would go to do a seminar live somewhere. I didn't have to sell it all online. I sold it in a set of tapes or a DVD set. I didn't have to go international. Now I'm changing. I'm doing it the way the market wants. I had to build a whole studio in my office to change with the marketplace and move with the times. Doing live seminars is great, but it's not where the market is. It's about TV shows. It's about online content. It's about Insta. It's about Facebook Live. It's about LinkedIn. The market is shifting for you. The market is shifting for me. The only consistent factor I was taught many years ago in business is change. And that's the way it's happening for both of us right now. Some of the things that we're doing today won't work tomorrow. Some of the things that we're doing next month won't work a year from now. We got to keep adapting. We got to keep changing. We got to add. So look to innovation. Look to different markets around the world, different countries, different continents, different businesses, different industries where you can learn how they're innovating and therefore adapt and do that for your business as well. Take a look at your business model and see, is it really leverageable and scalable? I remember sitting with a buddy of mine who's a very famous artist, takes amazing landscape photography. His name is Peter Lick, L-I-K, look him up. Amazing guy. When he first started out, he's a photographer, just took them himself, sold them, in small things. Now he's got stores all around the world selling his amazing art all over the world. If a photographer can learn leverage, if a business coach can learn leverage, if we can get scale, then you can too. You just got to think about it long enough and hard enough to work out what business model suits me best. Maybe it's multiple business models, and therefore I can actually build a business that works, that scales worldwide. Listen, a lot of thoughts to come out of today for your business plan. Make notes. Maybe even go back and watch it again. Get the notes down. Get ready for your business plan. It's coming up. 28X is here. 29 tomorrow. Let's go, 30X team.